Çiftlik Bank,
Ciftlik Bank,
Çiftlik Bank,
Ciftlik Bank.
Çiftlik Bank, Çiftlik Bank,
Ciftlik Bank.
Mehmet Aydın,
Mehmet Aydın.
Mehmet Aydın.
Mehmet Aydın, Mehmet Aydın,
Mehmet Aydın.
Mehmet Aydın, Mehmet Aydın.
Mehmet Aydın.
It looked like just another farm game. It ended up causing devastation on a national scale. July 31st, 2016. Millions of Turkish citizens stumbled upon what they believed was the financial opportunity of a lifetime. An app called Ciftlik Bank had just launched, promising to revolutionize farming, gaming, and investing all at once. On the surface, it was just another harmless farm game. Cute virtual chickens, cows, and goats you could feed, breed, and grow. But here's the hook. Every virtual animal you bought was supposedly backed by a real one, somewhere on a real farm. The company promised that as those animals produced milk, eggs, and meat, you'd earn real money. It was sold as supporting hardworking farmers while making a profit for yourself. It was the perfect marriage of fun and finance, wholesome and profitable. Within months, over 1 million people downloaded it. It didn't just look like a game. It looked like the future. It sounded revolutionary. It sounded irresistible. But it was a lie. A polished, seductive lie, spun by a cunning 25-year-old who conned over 100,000 dreamers, walked away with $80 million, and vanished into thin air. How did a cartoon farm grow into one of the most infamous scams in Turkish history? And how did its creator convince an entire nation that fortune was just one click away? Let's go back to where it all began, to the day this digital farm was planted, a farm that would never feed anyone except its creator. It's 2016, and Turkey's economy is crumbling faster than a stale cookie. Inflation's soaring, the Turkish lira's tanking, and jobs are scarcer than rain in a desert. Families are scraping by, desperate for a way to make ends meet. So was a 25-year-old Mehmet Aydin, a nobody from Bursa, a bustling city in northwestern Turkey, with big dreams and an even bigger hustle. Nicknamed Tosunçuk, a Turkish term for a chubby, healthy baby, Mehmet Aydin wasn't born with a silver spoon. Far from it. Raised in a working-class family, he dropped out of school to sling plates as a waiter and dishwasher. His real passion? Chasing a dream of becoming Turkey's next rap superstar.
Bir şişede hayallerim, ciğerlerime duman gelir. Her çekişte hayaldeyim, yaşattığım hayal değil.
But like so many others, he never made it to the charts. What Aydin lacked in musical talent, however, he made up for in something far more dangerous: ambition. And through his failed rap career, he met someone who would change everything. An online game designer who would become his partner in what would soon become one of history's most devastating digital cons. Smartphone adoption was exploding in Turkey around this time. By 2017, over 50 million Turks owned smartphones, and mobile gaming was becoming increasingly popular. The idea of making money through a mobile app wasn't completely foreign, and this young entrepreneur was going to take advantage of this further than anyone would expect. Here's the twisted genius of Mehmet Aydin. He didn't look like a scammer. No flashy suits, no obvious red flags, just a regular guy who happened to love Farmville. And that innocent obsession with a Facebook farming game was about to become Turkey's financial nightmare. Working with his game designer friend, Aydin created what appeared to be a simple Farmville clone. But this wasn't just any farming game. This was Ciftlik Bank, Turkish for farm bank, and it had a revolutionary twist that would make it irresistible. The concept was beautifully, terrifyingly simple. Download the free app, build your own virtual farm, plant crops, raise animals, and harvest products just like in popular farming games like Farmville. But here's where Ciftlik Bank differed from other games. Players could actually make real money. Think about that for a moment. You spend 10 Turkish lira on a virtual cow, and somewhere in the Turkish countryside, Ciftlik Bank allegedly buys a real cow with your money. The profits from selling milk, meat, and other agricultural products would then be distributed back to players as profits. Aydin's idea was groundbreaking. Ciftlik Bank was to become a hybrid form between a video game and a crowdfunding platform for Turkish agriculture investments. Within 8 months, 50,000 people were playing daily. They were hooked. They were making money. They were living the dream. They had no idea they were funding their own destruction. But it wasn't only the idea that made Aydin succeed at the scam. It was the perfect timing of its launch. Several factors made Turkey the perfect environment for this type of scam to be successful. The country had a strong agricultural tradition. Many Turkish families have rural roots and understand farming, making the agricultural investment angle seem legitimate and familiar. However, at this time, Turkey's economic situation was crumbling. Inflation was rising, the Turkish lira was losing value, and traditional investments couldn't keep pace with the economic pressures. This app suddenly gave people the hope of protecting their savings and supporting the country's farmers at the same time. People were also looking for alternative ways to grow their money, and Ciftlik Bank presented the perfect opportunity for entertainment while earning handsome profits. Aydin played the role of visionary entrepreneur flawlessly. He spoke at conferences, gave media interviews, and appeared at universities as the young genius marrying tech and agriculture. The company rolled out slick websites, glossy ads, promotional videos showing real farms, and even tours where investors could visit the animals they supposedly owned. What they didn't know was that the real farms they saw in videos were carefully staged illusions, a perfect backdrop for the lie about to swallow them whole. And it worked. Word of mouth spreads faster than any marketing campaign. Early investors were getting paid, and they couldn't stop talking about it. When your neighbor is making money from a farming game, skepticism turns into fear of missing out. What people didn't realize was that their neighbors weren't making money from farming. They were making money from the wallets of the people who joined after them. The offers were juicy. Nobody suspected they were standing in the middle of a ticking time bomb. By 2017, Ciftlik Bank was a juggernaut. Over 132,000 investors poured in 1.1 billion Turkish lira, roughly $130 million, chasing the dream of easy money. The app's promises were irresistible. Spend 10 lira on a virtual chicken, get 20 lira back in 2 weeks, a 100% return. Drop 100 lira on a cow, pocket 200 lira in a month. The boldest could buy virtual farmland for ongoing profits from real crops. The app was a dopamine hit. Aydin made greed feel like gardening. Players would log in daily, feed their virtual animals, water their digital crops, and watch their fake profits grow. It was colorful, engaging, and absolutely addictive. It was Farmville on steroids, with real cash at stake. But the real genius, the referral system. Invite a friend, get a bonus. Soon, families were roping in cousins. Friends were pitching to friends, and entire villages were hooked. It wasn't just a game anymore. It became a movement. In 2017, Aydin doubled down, opening 2 real farms in Bursa, with glitzy ceremonies attended by local bigwigs, district governors, local mayors, and other top government officials. Within months, over 100 Ciftlik Bank shops popped up nationwide, selling branded products like milk and cheese. Players could cash out 5% of their profits or grab vouchers for farm fresh goods. $250 million poured into the system. People took out loans, sold jewelry, emptied their retirement accounts. Fake financial reports boasted massive profits, and partnerships with real agricultural businesses sealed the deal. It was a perfect facade. By late 2017, Ciftlik Bank was processing millions of dollars daily. Mehmet Aydin had become one of Turkey's most celebrated young entrepreneurs. But beneath the glitz, something was rotting. The farms, the profits, the partnerships, none of it was what it seemed, and the clock was ticking. By early 2018, Ciftlik Bank was a digital gold rush. More than 1 million users, millions of dollars flowing daily. Mehmet Aydin wasn't just Turkey's golden boy. He was living proof that dreams could come true. But every Ponzi scheme has an expiration date, and Ciftlik Bank was about to arrive. It started with something almost innocent. Too many people trying to withdraw their profits at once. The app began glitching. Virtual farms stopped producing. Customer service went silent. At first, Aydin's team had excuses for everything. Seasonal agricultural cycles, technical difficulties due to overwhelming demand, new updates coming soon. But the reality was that new investor money could no longer cover the withdrawals being requested by existing users. February 2018. Social media erupted with panic. Families realized their life savings were trapped in a game that had stopped working. Local news stations began broadcasting the unthinkable. Turkey's most beloved farming app might be the country's biggest fraud. The Turkish government launched an investigation and discovered something that made their blood run cold. Ciftlik Bank's accounts were held by a shell company in northern Cyprus. Every red flag they should have seen was suddenly blindingly obvious. Then came the day that changed everything. February the 7th, 2018. The servers went offline. The websites vanished. The apps crashed. And Mehmet Aydin, he was gone. In the days before the collapse, while families were still feeding their virtual chickens and dreaming of profit, Aydin had been systematically transferring millions to offshore accounts. He had sold his shares, emptied the coffers, and disappeared into thin air. The numbers were staggering. Over 1 million victims, an estimated $80+ million stolen. But the real damage couldn't be measured in currency. It was measured in shattered lives, broken families, and a nation's lost innocence. Turkey was in shock. Police stations were overwhelmed with complaints. Community halls filled with meetings of victims comparing losses. Retirees who had invested their pensions sat next to teenagers who'd poured in their part-time job money. For a brief moment, rumors swirled online that some funds might be recovered. Whispers that the government had frozen millions in offshore accounts. Families clung to the possibility of getting at least something back. But days later, the truth landed like a hammer. The accounts were empty, the money gone. Aydin was a young entrepreneur who wanted to succeed by all means and was a very smart one. He had combined strategic marketing, economic desperation, and the appeal of easy money to cause people to ignore warning signs that were there from the beginning. Players had been so focused on the money they could make that they hadn't realized how unrealistic the promised returns were. No legitimate agricultural investment could consistently generate 100% returns in 2 weeks, and soon Aydin could no longer keep the illusion alive. The investigation's findings were damning. No real livestock in Ciftlik Bank's name. The branded milk and eggs in shops, bought from third parties, slapped with Ciftlik Bank logos. No genuine farming operations beyond a few staged show farms, fake financial reports used to lure more investors. The beautifully packaged empire was nothing more than a slick money laundering machine. New investments funded old payouts, and whatever was left went straight into Aydin's pocket. Support groups formed online and in communities across Turkey. People spoke of humiliation as much as loss. Some hadn't told their families. Others had to confess to taking out massive loans for digital chickens that never existed. The shame kept many silent, but one question haunted everyone. Where was Mehmet Aydin now? The answer was more shocking than anyone imagined. While Turkey reeled, Mehmet Aydin was living large. The 26-year-old fugitive had fled to South America, bouncing between Brazil, Uruguay, and the Caribbean with $130 million in tow. Investigators traced his moves. Offshore accounts, fake IDs, a carefully planned escape hatched months before the collapse. This wasn't dumb luck. It was a mastermind at work. Aydin didn't exactly hide. He cruised in a Ferrari, partied on a yacht, and gambled big in northern Cyprus casinos, according to his ex-bodyguard. While victims back home lost everything, he flaunted their money 12,000 kilometers away. Turkish media erupted, branding him the Farmville fraudster. Interpol issued a red notice, and Turkish authorities launched a global manhunt. But catching Aydin was like chasing a ghost. The stolen funds, funneled through a maze of accounts, were nearly untraceable. Prosecutors charged him and his brother Fatih with fraud, money laundering, and running a criminal organization. Without Aydin in custody, though, justice seemed out of reach. But then, something unexpected happened. Sao Paulo, Brazil, a year and a half after vanishing, Mehmet Aydin walked into Turkish authorities and turned himself in. No one knows exactly why. Maybe he was tired of running. Maybe the pressure got too heavy. Or maybe the money, once hundreds of millions, had finally run dry. 2 days later, he was on a plane back to Turkey. The man who had fled with 322 million lira and $8.5 million returned with exactly $13 in his wallet. His Ferrari? Seized. His yacht? Confiscated. His lavish lifestyle was over. The trial was unlike anything Turkey had ever seen. Prosecutors wanted to make an example of him. They asked for a sentence so absurdly high it made headlines worldwide. 89,000 years in prison. In the end, the court gave Aydin and his brother 45,376 years and 6 months each, plus a fine of nearly $13 million for aggravated fraud, money laundering, and running a criminal organization. Justice was served, but the scars remained. What started as an innocent farming game ultimately destroyed the financial security of over 1 million people, all staged by one man. Today, the physical Ciftlik bank stores are gone. The websites are deleted. The apps have vanished from every store. But the scars remain in empty homes, broken families, and a nation that learned the hardest lesson of all. If something seems to be too good to be true, it probably is. Thank you for watching this video to the end, and we'll see you in the next one.